In 1907, a 3-year-old girl fell down a flight of stairs in London. The doctor arrived, examined her, and told her mother there was nothing he could do. The little girl was dead. An hour later, he returned with the death certificate. But during this conversation, they heard shuffling from the bedroom upstairs. They ran upstairs, and there she was, playing like nothing had even happened, except something did happen, because the girl who woke up the next day was not the same girl who fell down the stairs. And she would spend the next 74 years of her life proving it. Today, on Chasing the Past, we're going into Dorothy Eady, the woman the Egyptians called Omm Sety, praised by academics all over Egypt. And we ask the question that still haunts academia today. What if Dorothy Eady actually remembered her past? What if she remembered all of her past? Welcome back, guys. I hope your day is fantastic. I've been sitting on this one for a minute. Again, I know this feels like it's off topic, but I don't think it is. Dorothy Eady, her story has fascinated me since, 3-4 years ago, where I'm like, nah. Before that, I was like, past lives probably isn't a thing. Reincarnation, nah, probably not. And then I start to look her up, and I'm like, if this isn't real, it's the greatest hoax I've ever seen. We'll get into it, I promise. But I brought this one up because it ties into something relating to all these side topics, whether it's spiritual tradition, ancient archaeology, right? All the stuff that we kind of explore on this channel. The threads do tie together. One of them is this soul. The soul itself being bigger than one lifetime, whatever the interpretation is. And in most traditions, it's a pretty important key to being human. And so, whatever it is, the thread is that the soul itself is outside of time. And then you get things into Einstein saying that time is all the same. And what are we measuring when we measure time? And it's like, well, this piece, this little flame that you want to call it, is outside of that time. And the other one is this idea that memory isn't just in your head. That maybe, we have short-term memory. It always has this feel of computer, like RAM, right? Our memories in this physical body give us this, random access memory that we can access right now. But then you can also pull other stuff that's deeper out, right? So, something that's stored outside of this physical body, the vessel itself, the computer. And it's it reminds me of the solid state drive. The soul has this memory of all these things. And sometimes you can remember it and pull it down. Sometimes you don't remember it, but you can go, oh, shoot, that smell. That's a memory, right? Is it pulling from that solid state drive, right? Not to get too technical. But I thought those were two things that tie into this and tie into this channel that I thought, Dorothy Eady sounds like the perfect person to go through. So let's just go through it. So after the fall, after the fall, Dorothy started having night terrors. Again, she was really little. Every night she had the same dream. A huge building with columns, surrounded by trees and green gardens. It was beautiful. She'd wake up crying, telling her mother, I want to go home. Also, crazy, being a parent, you're going, what do you say? I mean, it's already crazy the things they say to you. But then now you're like, I want to go home. And then as her mom, you're like, Dorothy, excuse me, you are home. And she would get frustrated. And then she would get really, really sad, depressed almost is what it's labeled. And almost like she knew that that's not true, right? This isn't home. This is just home for now. And the thing that jarred this feeling loose and made sense was when she visited the British Museum. So she was 4. Her parents couldn't find her, or they couldn't find a sitter, so they brought her with her. When they brought her there, she was at the Egyptian exhibit, and like, she runs to the statues. And when she's at these statues, she starts, like, kissing their feet and yells at strangers for like, wearing shoes. She's like, the gods are here. Take your shoes off. And I'm like, okay, already odd. Like, at 4 years old, I don't think I was like, excuse me, you can take off your shoes, please. Or yell at them, right? They're strangers. I'd be like, okay, I'm a tiny kid. I probably shouldn't mess with them. Anyway, so she does this weird thing in front of everybody. Again, this is early 1900s. This isn't like now where you're like, oh, that kid's crazy. You're like, oh, what a shame. You brought shame to my family for yelling at me. Don't you know who I am? Anyway, she stops at this glass case, and it's this mummy. And I don't know what this means exactly, but the story says, in a voice that sounds like an old woman, she says, these are my people. It reminds me of Dune, when they use the voice, right? And it's the Bene Gesserit use this voice. That's what I hear. Now, so, all right, the kid got spooked, saw some statues, kissed the feet, whatever, right? Like I said, kids say weird stuff. But where it gets beyond weird is that, like, and kind of make the conviction level goes up after this piece. So she finds a picture of Temple of Seti I, and so that's Abydos, in a textbook. She's 7, supposedly 7, and not saying she isn't 7. She's 7 in this physical body. She's 7. I think you guys are following along. And when she sees the picture, she goes, oh, where are the trees in the garden and all this fancy stuff? There's no garden, it's all ruins. And now, when she sees that, she gets really excited and goes, oh, I remember, Mama, this is my home. She's British. And goes, this is my home. Then she starts teaching herself hieroglyphs. And when she's asked, well, okay, so Sir E.A. Wallace Budge, the Egyptologist of the time, of the era that was so praised, says she picked it up like she already knew it. And then when you ask her, hey, wow, how are you doing that? She goes, I'm just trying to remember. So now she remembers, picks it up super quick, and then then the next bit, so that's when she's, tiny. Then you move into adolescence, into teenage years. So at 14, her visions intensify. And at the end of this little bit, I'll give some skeptical points about here or there that I thought were interesting that I was able to find. Pretty interesting, actually, because no one talks about this piece, but I found it. So she would go into these trance-like states. She would start writing in hieroglyphs in this trance, dedicated to the presence she called Hurrah. Which, now that I say it out loud, sounds like hurrah. But, so Hurrah, which is, more accurately, it looks like Ra Harakthi, is a powerful fusion of the ancient Egyptian sun god Ra and the sun god Horus. Okay, 2 sun gods. Nice. Twice the killing power. Year 1. Jack Black. Now, this represents the rising sun and the ultimate symbol of divine kingship, celestial light, heavenly power, and the pharaoh's earthly authority. Okay, those are some pretty good tie-ins for what wonky stuff she's got going on. So after this period of a year, she has 70 complete pages, all in hieroglyphs, and this is the story that was written down during these automatic writings. Dorothy had been a woman named Bentreshyt. That did not sound right. It sounded like I said Bentreshyt. I don't even know. I'll put it here. She was born in Abydos, right? This is the past life regression. Father was a soldier. Mother was a vegetable seller, right? Who died when she was 3 years old. She was placed in the Temple of Qom el Sultan, Qom el Sultan, and raised to become a priestess. At 12, she took vows of consecrated virginity, but then she met Pharaoh Seti I. They fell in love. She became pregnant. When the high priest discovered it, he told her the sin against Isis was so severe she'd be tried and likely sentenced to death. And to protect the pharaoh from scandal, Bentreshyt took her own life. So, a teenage girl in 1920s London, writing in hieroglyphs after what she's taught now, but didn't formally know hieroglyphs, just kind of picked it up, started remembering, tells a story of her being a priestess that lived 3,000 years ago. Now, it would take a while to verify any of these details, but there's some interesting side notes in the skeptical side kind of towards the end here about this period, which is 1920s London, and the thing that set me off, and maybe others too, would be automatic writing, right? A very, very esoteric type. It reminded me almost theosophy type vibe, and I know that's occurring in 1920s London. So with a skeptical eye, we'll get into that, but after her teenage years, right? So this would be 1931. So Dorothy gets a job writing for an Egyptian public relations magazine in London. She uses it to advocate for Egyptian independence. She marries an Egyptian man. And then when she steps off the boat in Cairo, she falls to her knees, kisses the ground, looks up and goes, "I'm finally home." Okay, cool. She names her son Seti, changes her name to Omm Sety, mother of Seti. She then takes a job with the Egyptian Department of Antiquities, the first woman ever hired. She has no formal training and becomes one of their most respected scholars. Now, from this alone, impressive. I mean, even if you become so dedicated, even after the incident, let's say, right, knocking your head pretty hard, there are definitely cases of you should definitely look this up. It's a trip. People that hit their head and then suddenly have like an accent or remember a language, right, that they never knew before, which also is super unique about like something bonding, something that you don't have right now that can either be pulled from nowhere and you do know it, or, just, was it foreign accent syndrome? Right, you hit your head and then you're just stuck with an accent. But now, I don't even know how to word this, but in 1952, it takes a while, but she finally gets to Abydos, takes a pay cut, and when she walks in the Temple of Seti I, which is in Abydos, she says it's as if I've lived here before. You might have, based on the story, but she tells archaeologists, dig here, you'll find a garden. They dig, boom, they find a garden. She describes what trees were there. Boom, they confirm those trees were there. She says, dig on the north side. There's a secret tunnel. They dig. There's a tunnel. Okay? Now, these are never documented before. There's no map. And, she'd never been there until now. Again, take this with a grain of salt, skeptical eye. This is coming from her, right? So we don't actually know any of these things. But from her, this is what is going down. And the people that were with her don't say she's no BS artist, right? Her goal is not to, BS anybody. Excuse me. So, in 1957, the new chief of antiquities decides to test her. So he takes her into the temple, takes her at night, and only a torch. So difficult to see, never been mapped. Also, sounds pretty sketchy. A random guy, because she's no longer married at this point, didn't work out, I don't think, guides her to different locations in the dark with a torch. Not saying something nefarious went down, but if there was a red flag where something could go down, right? It's probably in the dark in the middle of Egypt where no one can hear you scream. So, again, nothing's been published about the layout. She'd never technically been there until she guides him everywhere. Every corner, every chamber, no hesitation. She knows where to go, how to get there, and then says there's a secret chamber beneath the tomb of Tutankhamun, right? She says the tomb of Nefertiti. This was 1972. So what I could find about that was in 2015, there was some radar imaging, and there is a chamber. There's something there. I don't think it's been dug up or excavated, but it is there. So the Antiquities Department says she's not a fraud. She knows the temple layout. She picks up hieroglyphs super quick and sticks to this story her entire life. If that isn't dedication to a hoax, I don't know what is. Because that's impressive. I couldn't do it. I mean, yeah, no, there's no way. My whole life, like if I didn't believe something, you can maybe convince yourself something, but I don't know. Anyway, so again, we're going to go through the skeptics. We're going to go through the skeptical side, see what we can find, and then give you a little dose of what 1920s London looks like. So again, some people believe the fall caused this brain injury that produced foreign accent syndrome and maybe some OCD. So that OCD then gets channeled to Egypt, and then, she locks onto it and connects with it, and that's the thing. The piece of evidence that I find very rare, also it's 444, knock it out loud. It says she was institutionalized multiple times for mental health issues. Now, again, this is super, super early, right? Early 1900s, so I assume that they think she's, demon spawn or the Satan's on her, something. So I don't really take that with a grain of salt, like, oh, she was institutionalized. I'm like, okay, that's like trying to do the whole David Grush, bring up that he has PTSD. And they're like, oh, I'm like, that's a 1920s thing that would work, but it doesn't work now. At least not for me. They just didn't understand. Could be. Maybe she was nuts. I don't know. But the fall, the museum, the trance writing, again, these all come from her story, herself, Dorothy. Now, again, I'm not saying she was perfect. She did get things wrong, but, again, not everything she would say was verified. There's one point where she says that Atlantis was real, which is my other clue about going into this theosophy, automatic writing, this type of deal, this esoteric side of London. And what I could find was that her family were not associated with theosophy or Madame Blavatsky. So the teachings and that, not good. Again, most of it's from her, so we have no record of her or her, middle-class British family practicing anything with theosophy or the being involved with Madame Blavatsky. Now, her whole life, again, stuck to the story. This is from a past life. So the conviction, this absolute conviction, comes from this experience, this remembering this 3,000-year-old life, which, again, something that ties these together is a traumatic death, something that hits the person so hard that, it's like the same thing with someone says a ghost is here because it was such a terrible death and the memory stained the walls or it stained this. It's almost like this memory was so severe that it stuck around, and then boop, it was her soul that had it, and she just happened to hit her head in belief when she was super young. But the whole thing was, when I found this theosophy, I just needed to know what was happening in this esoteric time period. So, again, theosophy is highly active in London. It's super influential. They have a European headquarters. And again, so she was born in 1904. So this London scene was super active. So, and I kind of split it up into different ones. So you have kind of the spiritual aspect that's happening in London. You have the automatic writing. You have the seances. You have, a weird niche esoteric looking to the past. And the groups that were active were, the Hermetic Order, the SPR, so the Society for Psychic Research. You have Theosophy Society, like we talked about, spiritualist churches, seance circles, that whole thing. So when she's doing automatic writing, which is post-World War I, there was a huge, massive boom in London for this spiritualism and psychic research. She was a teenager from 1917 to 1923. So when I found specific groups that kind of tied to what she's doing, I had to at least include it in the evidence. I just keep it out there, because if they're operating at a capacity where anyone can go see them or attend a meeting or do something relating to this group, then you might get an idea. Or see, now I'm conflicting myself because it's twofold. Either one way it's true, she just found groups that had this terminology for what she's going through, or the other way, which is the skeptical angle of she's just using those things she learned, pulled them, she knows she is the only source, and then has this story and just decides to stick with it. I don't know the answer to that. I'll let you guys choose, because I'm to give you information. You get to pick for yourself. That sounds good. So again, we have the Psychical Research Society. The National Laboratory of Psychical Research is there too, which I found interesting, by Harry Price. In 1920, there was a British College of Psychic Science. So their job is to educate the public on past lives, trance states, and survival after death. Pretty good connection there. Also, a major highly active hub for mediums and different psychics. This spiritualist angle, the one that I found closely related to what was going on with Dorothy, would be the LSA. So, the College of Psychic Studies is what it got later renamed, but the biggest and largest, most influential network of its time was this LSA. And again, something that, might be small, but, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was the president in this period of time. They also published this widely spread newspaper called Light. And they would organize through, the magazine and through social connections, big gathering networks all across London. So there isn't access to these groups that are there. And again, just because she lived in this time period doesn't mean that she's taking it to, do something with it and trick everybody and to feel good. Maybe it is, hitting your head, having a little bit of OCD, getting this foreign accent syndrome. But again, most people said she wasn't bullshit. Oopsie. We don't have any, she doesn't provide anything. There's no lectures I could really pull from. It would take forever. But I thought it was interesting to note that no one else is mentioning there were these active societies that focus on everything she did at the same time. So, there you go. Again, she was later... So, now to kind of conclude and round off. The story is fantastical. It's great. Most people said that this wasn't just like she's guessing, though. It feels like intuition. Then she's known as this, essentially a patron saint of Egyptology, right? They gave her special permissions and they let her keep working and discovering and doing all this work, even though they had a mandatory retirement. And she, well past that age, she kept working until she passed away just outside of Abydos. So, now, again, the story points that we have to cover, right? They do have to deal with the soul. They have to deal with the idea of reincarnation, the idea of having multiple lives that, we cross the river Styx and we forget, or we cross into a physical body, but the soul has memory of all these things for whatever reason. It's just the interpretation that gets different in most of these traditions. But it just means at the end of the day with this, there's more to the soul, period. If there's one thing, everybody on planet Earth, we're like, okay, we do have an afterlife. The difference is what happens after that. So, good to know. And it's not uncommon to, I'm going to bring that up too. This isn't like a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. It is pretty common of people to claim they live multiple lives and then demonstrate things that just can't be proven. We're like, oh, well, you did this or you did that. It's like, I don't know how you know that, but you're pulling something. And you're pulling it from somewhere else, because it's more than just like acting. It's like, oh, wow. That's exactly how that person died. How do you know that? You're like, oh, I don't know. I'm just 5. You're like, oh. You're like, interesting. Yes. Now, I just kind of want to give you a little bit of the conclusion on how the end of her life went. So she died in 1981 outside and near Abydos, again within walking distance of the temple, the place that she said was home her entire life. And, it makes me wonder if right now, like with this story, like, is there a kid right now waking up from like this dream and it's some crazy fantastical story and they're going, oh, it feels more real than like reality right now. And then, they go through the same cycle. They get depressed and they do this and do that. But like, I think we jump too quick to something that, oh, that's impossible, right? Again, we have to not presuppose something we think on something that might actually be happening. Be skeptical, but don't put it out right away without looking at anything else. I looked at both. Maybe it's the, spiritualized, revitalized London that caused this to occur, or maybe it's real. And, maybe it's a disservice that we're doing to those who just want to be heard, to be understood, to have something, a piece, a key from the past that we might need. But if we're not open-minded to it, well then, like, what's the point, right? Maybe we're just not ready to hear, right? That could be too. Now, with this world of mystery, with history itself, like we don't really have a good, clear picture. We have a good guess, right? We didn't walk at that, in this case, maybe we did. Either way, maybe there's just some crazy stuff that we're waiting to rediscover. But we have to be open-minded. We have to, maybe instead of having to go out and do all the hard work and do this and waste a bunch of money, we could just give people like Dorothy the chance to speak, to explain, to see if there's anything they're pulling from. And maybe by them remembering, we can discover things that aren't there. That seems fun. I don't know, that's such a hard stretch. So I guess that's the overall conclusion that I would have, right? Look up her story. Tell me what you can find. I found the, area of London pretty interesting, but maybe that's just part of it. Maybe that's a piece. Maybe it is just her having this experience and then relating to people. That's what we do. We do that in church, right? We do that in places. We go to a group that has the same ideas, and then we hone those in. Now, again, maybe she's just finding a group that understands her, because instead of being depressed and upset that this is happening with no one listening, people listen to her now. That's also not a bad thing either. So, to round off this whole idea, think about it. Yes, think about it. Look her up. But, I just want to thank you guys again for being here. I'm trying to move the studio around, try to get it to look nice, get all these things set up. So I just want to thank you for your patience. Thank you for your presence. And again, if you like stories like this, cool little things that you want to look up later, maybe this is going to be a shorter video, but let me know. Drop a comment, say something, like it. I really love hearing what you guys have to say. It's actually one of the cool things that I didn't think I would get from this so early, was interesting people like you talking to nobodies like me. So, again, if you know someone who would like this, share it, blah, blah, blah. The whole deal, you know what to do. But really, if you want to comment, I read them all. So, thank you for your participation. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for your gratitude. I'm grateful. Thank you for your love and your gratitude. I'll see you next Tuesday. Pow. Pew, pew.